Visit them online at techtimeradio.com.
Broadcasting across the nation from the East Coast to the West, keeping you up to date on technology while enjoying a little whiskey on the side, with leading-edge topics, along with special guests, to navigate technology in a segmented, stylized radio program. The information that will make you go, Pull up a seat, raise a glass with our hosts as we spend the next hour talking about technology for the common person. Welcome to TechTime Radio with Nathan Mumm.
Well, welcome to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm, the show that makes you go, Technology news of the week, the show for the everyday person talking about technology, broadcasting across the nation with insightful segments on subjects weeks ahead of the mainstream media. We welcome our radio audience of 35 million listeners to an hour of insightful technology news. I'm Nathan Mumm, your host and technologist with over 30 years of technology expertise. Our co-host, Mike Gorday, is in studio today. Mike's an award-winning author and human behavior expert. Now, today we are live streaming during our show on 5 of the most popular platforms, including YouTube, Twitch.tv, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We encourage you to visit us online at techtimeradio.com and become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/techtimeradio. Mike and I are friends with both different backgrounds, but bring the best technology show possible every week for our family, friends, and fans to enjoy. We're glad to have Odie, our in-house producer, at the controls today. So everybody, welcome. Let's start today's show.
Now on today's show.
Today on Tech Time with Nathan Mumm, we're going to delve into a plot that seems straight out of a blockbuster movie. The AnyDesk hack. We're going to be talking about that. Imagine a criminals infiltrating the very heart of remote access software, putting companies in lockdowns for days. We'll explore how this breach happened, its impact, and what it means for our digital security. Next, we switch gears to a heartwarming story. You know Elmo from Sesame Street, right? Well, he's taken a surprise turn as a therapist. Elmo's simple question, how is everybody doing, has sparked the heartfelt response from people all across the nation. Then we'll discuss, Mike, how he loves this beloved Muppet character, showcasing mental health support online. And in a new trend, we have let's hit the road literally. Our asphalt is crumbling and potholes seem to multiply overnight. But fear not, we have some innovation road technologies to keep your streets in shape. And finally, our special guest, James Riddle, will have some unveiling new groundbreaking medical breakthroughs to talk about. These medical technology advancements are changing lives and reshaping the healthcare as we know it today. And don't forget, we have a Nathan Nugget. Today's story is going to be about last week's lead story. We're going to take a recap and take a look at what actually happened to that press release that Elon Musk sent out about Neuralink. In addition, of course, we have our standard features, including Mike's mesmerizing moment, the technology fail of the week, a possible Nathan Nugget, and of course, our pick of the day whiskey tastings to see if our selected whiskey pick gets 0, 1, or 2 thumbs up by the end of the show. Now let's get ready to start with the latest headlines in the world of technology.
Here are our top technology stories of the week.
All right, story number 1 is a plot right out of the movies. I just saw it last week. So you're having problems with your computers and you call help desk support. Then you ask to view their computer resources with a remote software tool. Now, for those that have seen the newest movie, The Beekeeper, that currently stars films Jason Statham, who was Statham used remote software by the hackers to steal millions of dollars from victims. So he plots his revenge on a cyber hacking ring and essentially destroys town after town after city, going after these victims. We're going to be talking about exactly some of those same things that happened to AnyDesk, one of the major tools used to provide support for organizations across the states and across the nation. AnyDesk Remote Access Solutions allows users to remote access computers over the network and the internet. Let's go to Tim Larson with more on the story.
The company behind the AnyDesk application confirmed that it suffered a recent cyber attack that allowed hackers to gain access to the company's production systems. The source code and private code signing keys were stolen during the attack. The company reports having 170,000 customers, including 7-Eleven, Comcast, Samsung, MIT, and the United Nations. As part of their response, AnyDesk says they have revoked security-related certificates and remediated or replaced systems as necessary. They also reassured customers that AnyDesk was safe to use and that there was no evidence of end-user devices being affected by the incident. The question on everyone's mind is, will technology systems, tools, or companies ever be safe from cyber attacks? Back to you guys in the studio.
All right.
No.
Well, no. Well, yeah, you know what? There is some problems with that. But after conducting a security audit, so AnyDesk didn't find this, but they had a security audit come on in. So that's always the best thing, right? So this
It wasn't
software,
from your buddies.
well, it was not. It was from CrowdStrike, not FireEye. So they actually found it. FireEye would still probably be. Never mind. Okay, so AnyDesk is a software. Have you ever called up a help support line? You calling up and you get them, they Comcast or any of these areas, and they say,
You mean
okay,
actually talking to a real person?
yeah, talking to a real person.
Not
Not as much anymore.
possible.
Okay. Well, so essentially, AnyDesk is used by many help desk call centers, and essentially, it's actually used a lot by cyber criminals. So every once in a while, you may get like you click on a link online and it says, "Oh, you got a virus on your machine." All these warnings come up and says, "Call this number." This is exactly the plot for the Beekeeper movie, and essentially, what happens is somebody says, "I need to take access of your computer." You say, "Okay." And when you do that, now you give everybody all the access they need to the computer. Hopefully, they're not doing anything maliciously, but essentially, AnyDesk is the tool that allows people to come in and out to take care of stuff. Now, there's some pretty major concerns because essentially what AnyDesk did is it says that all users need to change their password, which is a kind of a standard in a breach itself. It also said that the encryption keys were compromised, so that they had to resend certificates. That is the X, Y, and Z hidden handshake code that goes on the back end for these software programs that you use, because those were compromised also. So they have a brand new key. So essentially, what you really have to do is you have to uninstall the program, the master program, reload it,
install it with the new keys,
install it with the new key,
and then wait for the hackers to get the new keys.
Well, yes, or AnyDesk should probably do a much better job of having security. So this is, again, we had this talk last week.
I don't know. We seem to talk about this every week.
So people that own software companies, there needs to be some huge fines to start going out. If you say that you check mark when you create a business and you get your EIN number from the government, if you say that you're a software company or a software security company, you need to put your name down there on the contracts, kind of in blood, that says that if you're not doing the necessary steps to keep the security system safe, that you shouldn't be able to sell it on the open market.
Well, we've
all these
about,
open market things are what are having the problems.
We've talked about this before. I think this is a point where technology has outreached what human behavior is capable of, because all these are dependent on somebody, right?
Yeah.
And almost how many percentage of hacks are because of user error or personal or person?
They say 90 plus.
90
plus are done essentially through phishing email attacks.
And this is how human behavior is taken advantage of, because we don't have the staying power to keep on top of all this stuff.
Okay. But if you're the company that owns the software, shouldn't you be liable? I mean, you got to be liable.
Well, I complain about this how much
all the time,
because
like companies like Amazon, some of these companies really spend a lot of time because there's government.
Yeah, we should be spending more money on security.
Yeah.
We should be figuring out how to create code that is less vulnerable.
Correct.
We
should have some checks and balances for employees so that they don't give out passwords.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult to do.
Instead of me having to do.
CrowdStrike comes on in and does an audit, right?
Uh-huh.
And I bet you CrowdStrike, I don't know for a fact, but I bet you they found it pretty quick that they had been compromised. Normally, when you do a due diligence and you're not the people working there, you find these things pretty darn quickly. It doesn't take a huge rocket science individual to actually find out if this happens. It happens all the time, and this is something that really needs to kind of be a part of the process where you don't bring in this company, but you have the expertise on staff to make sure that it works correctly to begin with. All right, I could go on another 30 minutes.
And
I just,
that's my problem with all this stuff, man. I shudder every time we start talking about this, because It's just yet
Well, this is
another
lack
example.
of controls, though. This is lack of controls of the company not having their due diligence, taking care of their employees.
Yeah, but it affects everybody.
Yeah, and then people buy the stuff thinking that it's secure because the
so-
salesperson said it was secure. Okay, all right. Story. Whew, I need a therapist. Story number 2. You got to
Well,
help me out here.
maybe you'll have one.
Okay.
The first question that I have for you is, do you understand how social media works?
I think I do, but sometimes I don't. You know what?
Okay,
We talk about this all the time. Sometimes we get great ratings on our show. Lots of people watch it. Sometimes they don't, and I don't know if it's the keywords you put in,
Who
if it's the
knows?
other thing. It's kind of a crapshoot.
But if you're living in a cave, you might not know this, but Elmo has created a firestorm of mental health news in the past few days.
All right, explain more.
So from his former Twitter account, his X account,
Okay.
this was just a run-of-the-mill social media check-in.
Okay.
How is everybody doing?
A pretty simple question, right?
Pretty easy. The message comes from Elmo,
Okay.
the furry red friend of kids and Muppets on Sesame Street and everything else. But it turned into this really interesting thing over the weekend. So the response flooded in on X and Instagram, Threads and Facebook. So this all went out on all these social media platforms.
Okay.
Conversations were sparked on Reddit and elsewhere. People unburdened themselves, and Elmo took it all in. On X alone, Elmo's question received over 180 million views.
Wow.
Responses to Elmo on Friday and Monday differ wildly. So some of the earliest check-ins when this happened was, "Hey, just on my way to buy some balsamic vinegar." Came one reply, "I'm doing okay, hope you are." And then it's always usually followed up by an "Elmo loves you" or "take that" and whatever. When the weekend was over and when Elmo echoed this question on X and other platforms on Monday, things took a turn. "Not well, Elmo. They've done raised my rent and everything at this point. I'm coming to live with you on Sesame Street." To which he replied, "Elmo would love that. #neighbors." So all these people on Monday started airing litanies of personal and relationship problems and just general angst.
Okay.
They spoke about being tired, broke, unsure how to improve things, feeling disconnected from others. Essentially, Elmo had to become this therapist.
All right. So that was Friday. Sounded like Friday was a little bit more positive. Is that right?
Friday, it was just social.
Okay.
Friday, it was like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm fine. How are you?"
Okay.
Or whatnot.
Okay.
Monday, which makes sense.
Okay. The gloomy
because
Monday.
I hate Mondays.
Okay.
And
so everybody just started.
Everybody just unloaded on him
on
or
poor
Elmo. Yep.
Okay.
So in his response this week, and let's be honest, in most moments since he was introduced in the 80s, Elmo has shown that he exemplifies 3 of the most important attributes a therapist has.
Okay.
As defined by psychologist Carl Rogers. He is the driving force behind person-centered therapy. So Rogers' list starts with congruence, meaning authenticity, and genuous, which is being real. The other 2 core qualities for a therapist, he said, are acceptance that comes from unconditional positive regard and empathy. While Elmo hasn't been able to reply to every message in his accounts, his responses are winning praises. And I don't know if you've looked at this, but he is everywhere.
Yeah.
They're talking about him in
search
Psychology Today and other media. It's crazy. In many cases, the commenters on the reply showed people sharing positive message and practical advice with each other, encouraging people who are struggling to keep sharing and working to make things better. They are words we all need to say and messages that we need to hear. And in one short message, Elmo reminded us all to make time for each other and listen. His response on Tuesday was, "Wow, Elmo is glad he asked. Elmo learned that it's important to ask a friend how they are doing. Elmo will check in again soon. Friends, Elmo loves you." #Elmo emotional well-being.
Okay.
So there you go. Now, Elmo is not a therapist.
Okay.
Elmo is definitely a
Muppet.
Who was created by the
Jim
Henson Group.
Yep.
Okay. If you or someone you know who is actually in crisis, I would encourage you not to write Elmo. I would ask you to please call, text, or chat with crisis hotlines. If you're feeling really bad, Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 is active and up and running. You can also text the crisis text line by texting talk to 741-741.
All right. So Elma clearly is not a therapist, but
No.
his simple question on social media just went out
This
of
this
control.
is this is one of the bonkers things about social media that I don't think anybody knows how to predict, and anybody who says they can.
Sesame Street didn't expect this to happen.
I don't think they expected, but this is a firestorm of post-pandemic blues.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, let's go on to story number 3. Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads, is a famous quote in Back to the Future by Doc Emmett Brown. But you know what? We do need roads that do not have potholes. You know what? Potholes. I just came today driving down on the I-5, right? This is supposed to be the major nice freeway. I came I-5 and then I came 405 a bit, which is the offshoot of that. There are holes.
You went through Everett?
Yep. There are holes all over the regular interstate highways. Let's go to Corinne Westland for more on the story of how to remove or help the crisis of potholes.
In 2023, there were nearly 630,000 reports of potholes in the UK, and in the United States, about 44 million drivers reported damage to their vehicles from potholes in 2022, which was a massive 57% increase over 2021, according to AAA. While aging infrastructure and limited road maintenance budgets play a significant role in the problem, excessive heat can ultimately cause buckling of the roads, where additional thermal stress to the pavement materials can lead to cracks and potholes. How can we fix this? Well, I think we have a few ideas, all of which involve the use of new technologies.
All right. So in the UK, a startup robot company called Robots 3D was created, the world's first autonomous robot that relies on AI to find cracks and potholes in the road and fix them. The robot, named Aries Prevent, analyzes geometry of the pothole, collects the measurement data, and then informs that back to officials so they know where it's at, the road condition, and where they can actually get it taken care of and fixed. These robots are rover robots developed by the Academic Research Center at the University of Liverpool. They use wheels and camera system that allows image processing to be done in real time. They focus on the detection of potential areas for potholes and other types of pavement failures so they can work to fix these potholes as soon as possible. So this is great. So you got a robot AI.
Fix the potholes?
Well, they alert the person so they know where it's at in the city, what's going on with that, and then they can have somebody come on out and take care of it. So it's kind of like your robot spy, I guess is what you'd say, right? Robot spy that you would have that goes on out there, takes a look, says that there's a pothole issue here, so that then it can go back to a database and you can actually send out people instead of looking for the potholes or having people call in and say, hey, I have a pothole that takes care of.
I feel like that's a redundant system.
Well, how do you, and where we currently live, how do you, in the state of Washington, how do you get a pothole fixed? You know?
You have a bond measure that has to
No. How do you actually get it's okay. How do you actually get it fixed? You actually have to call your city.
Yeah.
So then you have to call your city, and then your city, well, depending on if it's in a county or not, we'll say it's a county issue or it's a city issue. Then you have to go to the home improvements.
You have all these people that are complaining about the potholes on X-23rd Street.
Yep.
Somebody's going to come out and fix that because the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
So
I don't know that you need to have a robot go out there and report and be like, hey, there's a pothole on X-23rd Street.
Well, it probably makes it so you can get it done quicker, because I mean, I drive over potholes all the time, and I'm not thinking I'm going to call the city to get it replaced.
Yeah,
right?
I don't call either, but I'm sure a lot of people do.
All right, so now let's talk about California. Now, California has horrible roads down there, but the reason is because the roads performance are graded on a certain area. So right now in California, everything has to be a PG 58-32, which means essentially the surface temperatures have to be between 58 and negative 32 degrees Celsius for the pavement that they're laying down. And if it doesn't meet that grade, then essentially you can't lay it down. Those are the grades that you have to get. Now, do you realize, though, that it's simply, you could have better temperature grades with very little increase in cost. You just have to make that a standard system instead of having the certain ones that we do. So California roads, notoriously bad. They have a very low standard of the negative 32 degrees Celsius and the 58 degrees Celsius, which sometimes it gets hotter than that. Essentially, the 58 degrees when you have the sun beating down on the roads and essentially disintegrating this. So if they just improve that, then you could have better roads built with that. It doesn't take a whole lot to change the strength of the asphalt mixes to minimize these potholes.
I think that's a better idea than having robots.
Okay, well, let's talk about another idea. Washington-based climate tech startup Modern Hydrogen, which is a local company itself. It was seed funded from the likes of Bill Gates. Essentially has the ability to create longer lasting forms of asphalt. The Clean Company's idea is instead of using the process they currently do, which is oil-based, that has dirt, pebbles, stones, sand, and oil to mix into it. Essentially, it uses bitumen from oil, but you can actually decide to have that be increased with having a lower CO2 intensity and actually have a better binder that makes the pavement on what they consider almost self-healing. So essentially, when it gets too hot, when it gets too cold, it'll actually contrast and it'll actually expand based upon this ability instead of having the oil that is currently being used in there. Or, for instance, steel fibers can essentially be released and you can have them so that they can put heat into the mortars instead of having them melt down briefly. So these are all essentially technologies that exist right now to have better roads, and roads across the United States is like a big campaign issue. We're getting into this political campaign area, right? And this is going to be one of the big issues. Every state has issues with roads. And it's not necessarily that we don't have the technology to fix them.
That's where they get federal funding. They get federal funding to fix roads, oftentimes by the federal government trying to dabble in state politics.
Okay. So we have the technology out there.
Yeah.
We have technology solutions in place to help with what we have on our current road situations for minimal fractional increases on
what are
dollars
those guys
spent.
going to do that have to fill the potholes if there's no potholes to fill?
Well, that'd be fantastic. You wouldn't have to worry about it. So those are just some of the great technology solutions out there. If we would just have some maybe road regulations or some better technology solutions put in place to get our roads taken care of.
I think we can all agree that there's technologies that exist out there that solves most of our problems that we have currently. We just can't get them there.
Or we don't get them
because
funded,
there are always political reasons why we can't utilize them.
Oh, this is my pothole. I'm on a pothole craze right now.
You're on a pothole soapbox.
I may
Do you
have
like the robot idea?
I think the robot idea would be really cool because you know what? There's a pothole that I've gone over on my way to work every day and I literally hit it with my tires on my right-hand side. So it's on my driver's side when I go over every day. No one's ever filled it. It's been there for about a year and a half. And I guess I have to call, but wouldn't it be nice if that robot went on out, took a look at the streets?
You could call or steer around it.
Well, no, no, it could just be fixed. If I was in the UK,
that would be
I
nice.
would have a better solution than that.
A robot would come out and
I'm going to move to the UK. That's what it is. Well, you know what?
Okay, move to the UK.
That way I can get my cars. I can get them charged on the street.
I envision this little Amazon little cargo thing, the little robots from Amazon coming out and scoping out the wheel. And
why don't you just use the robots they already have on the Amazon drivers?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm
pretty sure they're just going to add this to cars at some point in the future, so the cars will report that back to Google.
That'd be a good. That's
idea. Probably a Google thing.
Okay, there you go. You sign up for that, and then you self-report.
See, we've just solved the problem. We don't have to worry about anything. Your pothole will be fixed when they get around.
Okay, all right. Well, that ends then our top technology stories of the week. Moving on, we have James Riddle, our medical expert, joining us for our next segment after the commercial break. You're going to want to not miss this by any means because we're going to be talking about gene therapy that has caused a deaf kid to hear again. Just think of not being able to hear. And then with gene therapy, boom, I can hear again. He's going to be talking about that and many other technologies advances in the medical field. You're listening to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm. We'll be back after this commercial break.
This is Mark.
And Greg.
For Copiers Northwest.
With a terrific offer
called Printer Care Plus.
It's simple. Buy HP printer cartridges from Copiers Northwest and we'll service your current printers for free.
That sounds too good to be true.
It's made possible due to our HP Copiers Northwest relationship.
Copiers Northwest is an HP Platinum partner.
One of only 2 in the entire Northwest.
And now with Printer Care Plus,
Copiers Northwest will provide free printer service.
As long as they purchase genuine HP cartridges from Copiers Northwest.
That's right. IT departments no longer have to service printers.
Or fix paper jams with Printer Care Plus.
They can focus on more strategic initiatives.
And let our experienced technicians keep their HP printers up and running.
Sounds like a love-love relationship for IT departments.
Don't get too carried away. So how do they get more details on Printer Care Plus?
Call Copiers Northwest today, 206-282-1200, or visit copiersnw.com.
Copiers Northwest. New ideas, new solutions.
Welcome back to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm. Our show covers the weekly top technology subjects without a political agenda. We verify the facts, and we do it with a sense of humor in less than 60 minutes. And, of course, with a little whiskey on our side today. Mark Gregoire, our whiskey connoisseur, is in studios. Mark, what are we tasting?
Well, for Mike, we are not doing another rye today.
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's definitely bourbon.
Is
Yes.
it?
It is definitely just a bourbon.
Okay.
It is Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse Camp Nelson F, which is a limited 2023 release from them. So let me tell you what they say from Russell Reserve's website. It's inspired by unique conditions of the storied rickhouses at the Wild Turkey Distilling Company. The Single Rickhouse collection explores the unsung contributions specific barrels' resting places can have on that whiskey's final character. Now, each time offering in the annual series features whiskeys drawn from a single rickhouse. So this one is F, and before this they released C. And it's celebrating the varied nuances of the age and environment. So it really is to prove where is just as important as the how in crafting whiskey. Now, as I mentioned, this is the second entry in the series. The 2023 Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse from Camp Nelson F. It's a rare bourbon bottled from a small batch of barrels from the center cut floors 4 and 5. Its barrel proof is 117.6, non-chill filtered. This robust, long-lasting bourbon is meant to sip and savor. Robust flavors of clove and white pepper give way to sweet notes of caramel, orange peel, and dark fruits. A lasting finish with honey and baking spices that give way to tobacco and mature oak.
So this is on floors 4 and 5.
Correct.
So what gets distilled on floors 1, 2, and 3?
It's other Russell's Single Reserve. It's it's just different flavor profiles. And from this rickhouse, the Wild Turkey says
Rickhouse
F, and they say floors 4 and 5 give they feel the best bourbon. So that's why those are the honey barrels.
How
There's
many
Rickhouse K and U coming out.
Yeah.
It's 117.6 proof.
Woo. Okay.
Now the price of this MSRP is $300, and it's going for on the web for around $600.
Wow. There you go. So when I sip that, that's I think it's gonna get we better give it a thumbs up. Wouldn't that be horrible?
It's
We
okay.
gave it a thumbs down to a $300 whiskey.
No.
Okay, that's true.
No, your palate isn't that refined. It's all right.
Wow.
So if you like us, like and subscribe, please, out there, and put a comment in there. Love to hear about if you've had this, if you've tried it, or specifically what whiskey you'd like to see on the show.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I'm sure we'll learn more about it on our what's our
We
day
find
today.
out what today is.
That's right. All right. With our first whiskey tasting completed, let's move on to our feature segment. Today we have James Riddle joining on the show. James is the Vice President of Research Services and Strategic Consulting at Advera. He also serves in the Association for Accreditation of Human Research Protection Programs. James is an advocate in responsibility in medicine and research, but we know him as our TechTime medical research expert. Let's get ready to start our Comcast video stream in our next segment.
Welcome to the segment we call Ask the Experts with our TechTime radio expert, James Riddle.
All right, James, welcome
Hi,
to the
James.
show. Wow, we
Hey,
got a new
guys.
background. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining you from my little bit remodeled office. It's a long
Okay.
story.
Okay.
We can share it over that $600 shot that you got sitting there on the counter sometime.
We'll have to do that. This is a pretty good shot too.
At some point, you're going to get down to the one barrel on one floor that's on the 5th step of the 7th left center. And
You think so?
that'll be the
the special beer or the special whiskey that someone was leaning sideways against with some oranges underneath it or something like that. There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So it's been, you are a predictor of the future. That's what I'm calling you, because 9 months ago you were on our show and you had a concern about this company that was gathering our DNA. It was a company called 23andMe. Now, James, I'm sure you've seen the news articles. We covered it extensively here. 23andMe, China-backed company, was compromised and breached, and all of their user data was stolen. Now, does that surprise you?
Doesn't surprise me a bit.
It does.
It's to the point of your earlier story about, is anything unhackable? The answer is probably not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so you really just have to consider that anytime you put your electronic data out there, including a digital copy of yourself and your genomic profile, that's up to being hacked. And unfortunately, 23andMe got stung.
And if you do need copies of your DNA, or if you want it and you were on the 23andMe, it's going for about 50 cents right now on the dark web. So it's not even a premier. It's not even a premier value.
Way less
for
than you pay
someone's
for
DNA.
it.
I know. It is like the cheapest stuff. It costs more to get a Facebook login than it does to get a DNA
So
code
what
of
was
somebody.
the point of getting it?
Well, I didn't do that. All right. Well, okay. Let's now move on and talk about something a little bit more exciting. We have an 11-year-old boy who has regained his hearing after receiving a groundbreaking gene therapy at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Now, can you explain how this happened? What was a part of this, and how this young child is now hearing today?
Yeah, so I think we've talked about the power of gene therapy a couple of times. And really the way that this technology works is that if you have a genetic abnormality or a defect, technology exists now where scientists and medical professionals can go in and actually fix the defect. And so this young man had what is probably considered a reasonably rare genetic disorder, which caused him not to be able to hear. Scientists were able to specifically isolate the gene that was causing the problem, and they were able to provide a gene therapy that went in, corrected the gene, and now the young man can hear.
So now explain this a little bit to me. So the gene's in the boy itself. So they go in with this gene therapy. Do they actually change a chromosome? Do they change a DNA sequence live as things are going on, and then it replicates through their system and then they're fixed? Or how does that actually work?
Yeah, you described it just as it happens, that depending on the nature of the genetic defect, if it is at this point in the technology, you have to really understand what is the specific genetic abnormality that's going to be fixed. And you insert it using something called a viral vector. So if you think about the way that a virus works, it gets into your cell and causes havoc inside your cell.
It reprograms the cell.
Yep. And so you can leverage those viral vectors to do positive things like fixing a genetic abnormality. And the challenge is that you have to be able to figure out where to go to fix that particular genetic abnormality, and you have to know where it's at in the DNA strand and how to go in and get it. So if some genetic disorders are highly complex, involve a number of different chromosomes, and but if you're like this young man who was able to, we were able to identify, and there's other people who suffer from this condition, it's this very specific gene, and now we're able to go in and fix it. And it's a quite amazing technology. It's also used to help people who have certain sight problems be able to see, people with immunodeficiencies, folks with severe muscular conditions, all in the genetic abnormality category. We can now go in and fix those things.
All right. Okay. So let me ask you this then. I totally off topic. If I have brown eyes, so if I wanted to get blue eyes, if I just wanted to get blue eyes and they knew the gene sequence in there, essentially I could have this virus come into my system through the DNA, and they could actually change my eyes so that my eyes would go from brown to blue in the matter of a couple days then, and then it would keep it there permanently?
Not you couldn't dial that up on the interweb at the moment, but the underlying technology of editing your gene profile within your body, that theoretically could be possible.
Right now you gotta go get
contact
lenses.
I'm just thinking specifically for like Hollywood actors and stuff, right? Sometimes they wear contacts for different colored eyes. I can see all of a sudden some actor going on down there.
This is where we start getting into the ethical arguments of this type of situation, because what you're talking about is one of the big ethical questions.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
And these experiments are done highly controlled, overseen by a bunch of ethics committees before folks are having their genes altered.
Unless you're in China, though. Right? Okay, all right. Okay.
Hey, I wonder how they fix potholes in China. That'd be my question.
They don't.
They use people like Nathan who continually drive into them.
That's right. All right. Okay. Let's talk about an MIT engineer study that talks about nanosensors that could enable early lung cancer detection, which requires only a simple urine test. Now, I saw this online. I read about this. I got a little bit lost.
This wasn't a smart toilet thing, was it?
This wasn't a CES smart toilet type of deal, but essentially an MIT engineer study says that this is possible. James, is it fact, not fact? Tell me a little bit about this.
No, definitely doable. If you think about how you can do test strips for it, this is probably the easiest way to think about it. The test strip for your pool, right? You dip it in, certain chemicals react with the test strip changes colors. If you make that test strip small enough and you make it so that it detects lung cancer cells excrete a certain particular kind of protein that you can build a detector for. And then you measure whether the thing changed colors by looking at the pee and see if something was impacted in the urine that comes out of the person, and you measure how much came out. We've just finally gotten to the point where the nano measurement technology has gotten to where we can have it detect a particular protein coming out of the cell and be able to then detect the outcome of that measurement tool. Pretty cool stuff, really.
Okay. Which now that we have all this detection, I bet you cancer is going to be rapid all over. That's what I keep on thinking, because I keep on hearing about more and more people that get cancer. It's probably because we're just now detecting it at a much higher rate than we were back in 10 or 15 years ago.
Or it could be that we're exposing ourselves to all kinds of stuff that mutate our genes a little bit more.
Radiate ourselves? All that 5G network? No. Okay.
Yes, the 5G
joking.
network.
Not the 5G network. Not the 5G. Okay.
But
it's a combination of all of those things. People are living longer, which gives them more time to be able to have a genetic or a cellular abnormality or a cellular defect that causes the cancer. We're better at detecting it. So some people who used to die and you didn't used to know why, now we know why. And there's generally just more people around too.
Okay, so this is a story that you sent me that you wanted to talk about a little bit, and I had to do a little bit of research on this, and we talked about it last night at our production meeting, so you have to help us out here. The scientists launched their first human vaccine trials for the deadly Nipah virus. Is that
Nipah virus?
So what is the Nipah virus?
Okay, so Nipah virus is a nasty, bad virus. It's carried by fruit bats. So just picture places in the world where there are fruit bats. Okay. These fruit bats carry the Nipah virus, and it is it's nasty stuff. So just think like Zika, Ebola, Marburg, a whole bunch of different viruses that could wipe out the planet, that kind of stuff.
All right.
There is not currently a vaccine for Nipah virus. There wasn't a vaccine for COVID SARS-2 before we developed one. Yep. And so, the World Health Organization and other places are pretty concerned that we have these other really nasty viruses that live in animal populations there's evidence of Nipah virus infecting in humans. There isn't a broad scale human to human transfer as of yet, but there could be. And so it's pretty encouraging that researchers are finally getting around to making sure that we have decent virus technology, virus and vaccine technology for some of these viruses that go around.
Seems like COVID might have woke some people up.
So but we did talk about this. It was like that COVID allowed people to do some stuff that regulations had previously not necessarily moved as quickly with.
I mean, this is an interesting piece if you look, because they've been preparing for a pandemic long before COVID hit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been in such small circles, and they can't, get all the funding that they need all the time. And now it seems like, oh, wait a minute, they were right. Maybe we need to do some more research in this area.
All right, last question I'm going to ask you, and then we're running out of time. But this is a big one for me. So, experimental Alzheimer's drug addiction ultrasound trials may help patients. So, my mom, rest her soul, she's still alive, but she doesn't remember who I am anymore, and so she has a disease. My grandmother had a disease. It's awesome to find out that it transfers through your female parents. So I probably will have the disease. So don't worry about it, George. I appreciate you being a part of the show. But,
very nice.
But seriously though, because this is a concern for me, tell me what this is and how this may help patients.
Yeah, so it's pretty commonly understood at this point that there are certain indicators in the brain for people who have Alzheimer's. You've heard about the amyloid plaques and the white spots and things of that nature. So pharmaceutical companies have developed a number of drugs to try and reduce the amount of plaque that builds up in your brain, with the hope that that will then reduce the Alzheimer's. But the problem is that you have to get that stuff through the blood-brain barrier in order to get it from the injection site or the infusion site into the brain. And your body is designed so that it's not easy to do that, right? It protects your brain at all costs, including the blood-brain barrier, where it's hard to inject something into the bloodstream and have it get to the right spot in the brain. Okay. And so what they're doing with the ultrasound is they're using the ultrasound in a very precise, pinpointed way to open up a spot in the blood-brain barrier so that the drug can get into the brain tissue more effectively and hopefully in a quicker manner, treat the underlying plaque that's in the brain. That's what's going on.
Okay, that's good to know.
So
how do you feel
it's
about being a completely just a meat sack biological life support unit for the bread between your ears?
Yeah, see, I have some very mixed. I could do 7 shows on that. That's why I drink energy drinks every morning. Because if I die a little bit earlier, at least I enjoyed those energy drinks. But no, that's not okay. All right,
okay,
James,
wow,
I appreciate. I've known you for such a long time. We do need to get some whiskey. We need to have the next time you're up here in town, go and have some spaghetti and have a great time and get all caught up on what's going on. So thank you for being a part of the show. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. If anybody wants to get in contact with you, is the best way to do it through LinkedIn? How would they ask you some questions?
LinkedIn's the best way to do it. Profile's pretty self-explanatory, and my profile picture looks a lot younger than I do here on the screen today.
Well, there you go. All right, James. Thank you so much. All right.
Bye, James.
We're going to take a commercial break. When we come up next, we have This Week in Technology. You're listening to Tech Time Radio with Nathan Mumm. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, so you know what? We need people to start liking our social media pages.
If you like our show, if you really like us, we could use your support on patreon.com.
Or is it Patreon? I think it's Patreon.
Okay, Patreon. If you really like us, you can.
And you say I'm the English guy?
Patreon.com.
I butcher the English language?
You know you butcher the English.
Okay, so it's
all the time.
It's Patreon.com.
Patreon.com. If you really like our show, you can subscribe to patreon.com and help us out.
Oh, and you can visit us on that Facebook platform. You know, the one that Zuckerberg owns?
The one that we always bag on?
Yeah, you can. We're on Facebook too.
Yeah, like us on Facebook.
You know what our Facebook page is?
Tech Time Radio.
At Tech Time Radio.
Yeah.
You know what? There's a trend here.
It seems to be that there's a trend, and that's Tech Time Radio.
Or you can even Instagram with us.
And that's at Tech Time Radio.
That's at Tech Time Radio. Or you can find us on TikTok.
And it's Tech Time Radio.
It's at Tech Time Radio.
Like and subscribe to our social media.
Like us today. We need you to like us.
Like us and subscribe. That's it.
That's it. That's that simple.
And now, let's look back at this week in technology.
All right, we're going in our way back machine to February 5th, 1952. The first Don't Walk sign is installed in New York City. The installation of the sign was inspired by the growing number of deaths that resulted from pedestrian accidents. During the 1930s, city officials were trying to figure out how they could reduce the death and injury toll among pedestrians. Cities began passing laws establishing that pedestrians have the right of way under certain circumstances. Well, this didn't work out. And they tried physical means, including barriers to prevent pedestrians from crossing where they weren't supposed to. But in the 1950s, with the technology available, they were able to develop lighted walk and don't walk signs. Today, we have over 100 versions of these signs with audible alerts, countdowns, and funny animated pictures of people running. But the first city is New York City to develop the technology as a mainstay.
Yeah, so we need to talk to the people down in Seattle about paying attention to those signs.
To the signs? That makes sense. Well, that was This Week in Technology. If you ever wanted to watch some Tech Time history with over 180 weekly broadcasts spanning 4+ years, videos, podcasts, and blogs, information, and more, visit us at techtimeradio.com. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we have the Mark's Mumble Risky Review. We'll see you after the break.
Hello, my name is Arthur, and my life's work is connecting people with coffee. Story Coffee is a small batch specialty coffee company that uses technology to connect people to each product resource, which allows farmers to unlock their economic freedom. Try our Medium Roast Founder Series coffee, which is an exotic bourbon variety that is smooth, fresh, and elegant at storycoffee.com. That's STORI coffee.com. Today you can get your first bag free when you subscribe at storycoffee.com with code TechTime. That's STORI coffee.com.
The segment we've been waiting all week for. Mark's Whiskey Mumble.
Now you can do the drumbeat, buddy.
All right, what do we got going on today, Mark?
Today is African American Coaches Day.
Woo! Okay.
Yeah, this day addresses the need for the Black community and everybody else in particular to embrace coaching to help spur business and personal development for Black community. This significant day trashes the baseless stereotypes throughout history that African Americans aren't good enough. A mere scan through history clearly shows they undeniably sit among the world's most brilliant minds and super impressive accomplishments. Some pioneers were Fitz Pollard, who was the NFL's first Black head coach for the Akron Pros in 1921.
Okay.
We have Bill Russell, NBA's first Black head coach from the Boston Celtics, 1966. And more recently, Jennifer King, first full-time female Black NFL coach. She is the assistant running back coach for the Washington football team, hired in 2021.
Okay.
And there's many more that we don't have time to name today. Now, as we celebrate African American Coaches Day, let's raise a toast with our Russell's Reserve single Rickhouse Camp Nelson F. This bourbon's Rickhouse is called Camp Nelson after the local military Camp Nelson, which was established in 1863. It served as a hospital, a maintenance and supply station for the U.S. Army, and a portion of that has been converted into a cemetery. Now, following the Civil War, the cemetery was used to reinter Union dead who had been buried elsewhere in Kentucky. So it's very symbolic for Kentucky and very important for them. Now, Camp Nelson also had another very important role. According to the National Park Service website, initially established as a Union Army supply depot and hospital, Camp Nelson was one of the largest recruitment and training centers for African American soldiers during the Civil War and served as a refugee camp for their wives and children.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
So now talking specifically about the bourbon.
Yes.
This is not easy to find, being a limited release, and it is a little bit expensive, as we talked about. Now, if you can find a pour at a bar where you would have time to savor it, I would highly recommend it. It is complex, deep, and dark, taking time to dissect its many different aspects. There's berry sweetness and vanilla, a touch of cinnamon with spices, rich dark chocolate with some barrel char. You can probably name 5 other intense flavors as you slowly sip it. Is a whiskey you'd want to make the centerpiece for a small whiskey gathering at your home if you're so inclined. Thumbs up for me.
There you go. Okay. Well, you know what? Pairing of whiskey and technology is like the pairing of the Super Bowl and funny commercials. All right, let's get ready to our.
Forward to that.
Yeah, let's get ready for
Funny
our
commercial.
You have
technology.
no originality, do you?
Well, no, that's original.
He's topical.
All right, technology fail of the week brought to you by Elite Executive Services. Let's start that now.
We are out of time. Congratulations. You're a failure. Oh. I failed, did I? Yes. Did I? Yes. Did I? Yes.
All right, how many of you guys got yourself the Apple Vision Pro, that $3,499 device?
Not me.
Well, it went on sale on Friday as Apple's first major new hardware category since it began selling smartwatches almost a decade ago. Now, this device isn't expected to be as necessarily the blockbuster product because of its price tag, but one thing for sure, if you forget your code, essentially a series of digits, your device will no longer work, and you'll have to bring it back to the Apple Care customer support line, calling them up, returning it to the store, and have everything deleted on the device itself. That's right. The company did not provide a built-in cable. Most of your headsets have like a USB-C or some type of cable that you can connect to so you can do a reset. And it seems that the passcode problem has been very frustrating, especially with users that have forgot their passcodes and essentially had to go back, restart everything over from scratch, and wait 2 to 3 days to get their device back.
Just like an iPhone passcode, it has to be like 80 bajillion digits.
So it's quite a bit larger passcode, so you're not going to necessarily remember like a 257964338 type of deal. If you don't remember that, if that's not mine, but if you don't remember that and you forget it, your device is essentially bricked. An Apple spokesperson said that they're working on a solution. Currently, the only solution is to buy a $300 accessory on top of your. So again, if you're spending $300 for
this is an Apple thing, so that
thing,
should be part of the deal anyway.
You have to pay $300 that essentially is a device that you can troubleshoot that device for developers. Now we're going to head right now to our Mike's mesmerizing moment.
This is Mike's mesmerizing moment, presented by Story Coffee. Visit storycoffee.com.
All right, Mike, why did people respond so much to this Elmo thing here?
Really?
I mean, this took off on social media.
This took off on social media. It's being covered by all national news media outlets. It's kind of interesting.
Okay.
Well, it mentioned part of it in the article about Elmo's character.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big piece. Now I added some stuff in there. We talked about this last night. Elmo is a symbol.
Yeah.
And that symbol represents those things.
Okay.
And those things are innocence, authenticity, empathy, which is huge for therapeutic responses, and positive regard.
Okay.
So as a symbol, more often than not, Elmo is recognizable as a safe place to be able to express things. So it's something I would not have predicted to happen.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting way in which we will interact with a fictional character.
Yep.
In a very similar manner in which we would interact with a therapist or a bartender.
Okay.
So, as symbology goes, Elmo, I guess is that kind of caring symbol.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thanks. Again, social media, you never know what's going to pop to you. All right.
Oh.
Let's now move to our pick of the day.
And now our pick of the day for our whiskey tastings. Let's see what bubbles to the top.
All right, Mark, what are we tasting today?
We are tasting Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse Camp Nelson F, the limited 2023 edition. It is from Wild Turkey. It's a straight bourbon. It's not age dated, but it's over 10 years, 117.6 proof, and MSRP is $300.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I think it's fairly mild, but I like it.
Would you have this on your shelf for a...
No,
No?
I wouldn't go out and buy it.
Okay. Mark has it on his shelf. Mark, do you like this on your shelf?
Yes, I find it very deep, complex, so many different flavors. Every time I sip it, I get something different.
All right, that's perfect. All right, I'm going to give it a thumbs up also.
Why? Because it's $300.
Well, no, 'cause I just like everything. Come
That
on,
would be
it's
a
gonna
reason to give it a thumbs down.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. It still
Oh, that's
tastes very
true.
good. It tastes really
No,
good.
I wouldn't recommend everybody go running out and buying a bottle, but definitely trying to pour at a bar.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, for the Nathan Nugget that we didn't get to, if you want to watch the Super Bowl, essentially you need to watch it on Paramount Plus. That's the only place to do it, or get yourself some old TV antennas that you have available. And regarding the Elon Musk stuff, Neuralink, there's no information announced about it anywhere from Neuralink or any other
That
sites.
should be the fail of the week.
So it should be. Is Elon Musk telling us the truth that it happened or that didn't?
I'm
If
sure
this
he's telling
happened,
us
he
the
should have
truth
had
that it
that.
happened.
All right. Well, everybody, we thank you for watching the show. Remember, the science of tomorrow starts with the technology of today. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Thanks for joining us on Tech Time Radio. We hope that you had a chance to have that moment today in technology. The fun doesn't stop there. We recommend that you go to techtimeradio.com and join our fan list for the most important aspect of staying connected and winning some really great monthly prizes. We also have a few other ways to stay connected, including subscribing to our podcast on any podcast service, from Apple to Google and everything in between. We're also on YouTube, so check us out on youtube.com/techtimeradio, all one word. We hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did making it for you. From all of us at Tech Time Radio, remember, mum's the word. Have a safe and fantastic week.